Welcome. In front of me is a VIVO X200 Pro, and today I will show you a couple tweaks and tricks you can do on this phone. So let's just jump straight into it, and we will begin by opening up our settings. And now, starting off, you can go to the display and brightness, and here we'll have a couple of different things that I want to showcase. So starting off with the simple ones and kind of moving a little bit further, the further we go, or the longer we go, to more complex ones. So we have dark mode, which obviously will be the more kind of typical kind of setting. You have dark and light mode right here to choose from, and obviously you can choose whichever one you want permanently. So you just go dark mode on or off. The benefit right here with the dark mode is this is a AMOLED display, or OLED, those two, doesn't really make a difference. And any pixel that is right here, for instance, like fully black, like it is right here, here, and basically all around, is right now turned off. So the device doesn't need to power these areas of the display, so there's no brightness going to it. Therefore, phone will be using a little bit less power. So that is actually a very beneficial thing, but it only extends to applications that have this kind of full black background, and for the most part you're not going to see that everywhere. So here we have very little black backgrounds. One would be around the Netflix, TikTok, and a couple other applications right here. Now this is a less than 10% of the display right now, so obviously this won't really impact you almost at all. But the more applications you have that look more like this, the better the effect will be. Now this is just kind of preferential, but you can also choose to have it set to automatically switch between light and dark mode based on time of day. So during the daytime you can have it set so it's in light mode, which for summer I think that's probably going to be a better option, as light mode is just generally, at least in my opinion, a little bit more visible in direct sunlight than dark mode is. While during nighttime it can automatically switch to dark mode, giving you this kind of easier on the eyes kind of look, so you don't get just flashbanged by your own device if you want to check the time during night. Now going back to the main display and brightness, we can scroll down a little bit further, and we have a couple additional things. So for instance, we have things like fonts. Just like, whoops, I wanted to press agree, there we go. So you can choose between two fonts, and you can download more from the store if you want and choose them. And then we also have the font and display size. So this would allow you to change the display or font size on the display. You can see this is a pretty good option for people that might have some kind of visual impairment. So you can see you can just increase this, and both of them increase at the display size, which I believe primarily includes things like, for instance, these icons, right? Yeah, they're just becoming bigger, along with I think the best way to describe these two differences. So display size increases the size of everything. So that would include icons, these bubbles, and the text inside of them, while font size just increases the font itself and tries to also, I guess, increase other things to match it, which just kind of gets a little bit more ridiculous. So you can see, but by the looks of it, they both do about the same thing, to be completely honest, by the looks of it. So it's not really supposed to be like this. So maybe first try to increase just the font size, and then if you need more, you can do also the display size. You can also increase the bold or visibility of the text by making it bold. And we have high contrast, though you can see it affects it right here. So on the background, something that isn't white or black on white, it adds this black border around it. You can kind of see how that affects it. So yeah, anyway, going back, we also have, scrolling further down, we have screen colors. This just allows you to choose the saturation of the display. I personally find that most phones have a little bit of an oversaturated display, and here we have several other options. We have standard, which is the one that I said, professional, which is supposed to be the more, I guess, calibrated one, or accurate, bright, which will be probably more saturated than standard. Nope, it just looks more blue. And then adaptive colors, which tries to match the screen tint. So when you have white background, sometimes it might look more yellowish, more bluish. It will try to match it to the surrounding area. So if you have a lot of warm light wherever you are, the display will match that warm light to kind of have this more yellowish tint to the display. While maybe if you go outside, it would then switch to a more bluish color instead. And this just to kind of give you a kind of comparison, this is what iPhones do with their True Tone display, basically. Anyway, you can go back, and next thing we have the screen refresh rate and resolution, so these two. And the device comes with a higher resolution, which will consume more of your phone's battery. If you don't see a difference, I recommend changing it to the 1080p, which is the 2400 by 1080. It's just a tiny bit smaller resolution, but it will give you better battery life. Not by much. I also want to point out, I personally don't see a shred of a difference between these two. So to me, running it at a higher resolution makes no sense. I genuinely cannot tell a difference whatsoever, even if I would be looking through a microscope at this. So yeah, I just primarily will always pick a smaller resolution. 1080p seems to be a fantastic resolution for a phone. Anyway, and under screen refresh rate, we have Smart Switch, Standard, and High. Now, I recommend checking out both of the Standard and High individually, and then just starting to scroll up and down. So this is Standard, and then we have High. And you can kind of get to see the difference. You will probably see it more on your end than you can see on the video. Video is recorded at 60, so a lot of the nuance of the different refresh rates gets kind of lost as it is being only displayed up to 60 frames. The way you can kind of tell the difference is when I'm scrolling. Me scrolling just makes the text, when it's moving up and down, look a little bit more kind of stretched out, like a smooth blur, while Standard just starts to look more choppy, like it's in several places at the same time, sort of like a smooth transition blur kind of look. So the way these work is Standard gives you 60 frames per second of images on a display, while High gets you 120. So twice as many frames are being shown per second, and therefore everything just looks smoother. Other than that, it serves no other purpose, and if you can't tell the difference between these two, then stick with Standard. This will give you better battery life. Now, for people that can tell the difference, stick with the Smart Switch. This will be the best option, as it gives you better battery life while still reducing the refresh rate when there's nothing happening on the display, like right now. So right now this display could be running at 1 frame per second, and you wouldn't be able to tell the difference till you start scrolling up and down. But the moment you start scrolling up and down, it just automatically swaps to the 120, so it gives you this nice battery smooth motion. Now, continuing on, there's some visual enhancements. This, from what I can tell, is just kind of fake HDR. It's not really described as such, but the description just kind of tries to tell me that it is. So optimizes the colors and contrast of some pictures for more vivid display effects. Using this feature will increase power consumption. Now, this only applies to the power consumption only applies to times where it's actually being utilized, which it's not going to be utilized all the time. Now, another thing in here that I want to point out, which is a nice option, but this will be just kind of like a little tip for you. So it's the full screen display for apps. Right now there's only one app supported in here, which is Netflix, and what this will do is sometimes when you open up some kind of video or any kind of application, you might see that you have this kind of black bar right at the top. Maybe that primarily I see that in YouTube on my phone, which is the Samsung. So this option, when toggled on, will allow you to just kind of ignore this section where you have the camera, and typically the phone just tries to hide the cutout and just makes this entire area black. So you kind of, while watching a video or TV show, whatever, this looks more like a bezel, just straight black bezel, and the content just starts to show from below the camera to the entire display. With this being enabled, the application will now be utilizing the entirety of the display. That includes also this area right here where you have status bar. So that will now become also a canvas for any kind of videos or whatever. So inside of it, like your video that you're watching, you will have this cutout. Personally, it doesn't bother me, and I just like to have the content span through the entirety of the display, which this allows you to do. Now, let's now move over to dynamic effects. Now, this will be a very nice section for this VIVO phone with a lot of options that not very many devices have. And I'm gonna go through most of those, so let's just jump straight into it. Starting off, we have things like the let's see, was it this one? Nope. home screen transition animation. So here it just kind of allows you to increase I think it's increase the speed of applications opening up and closing. I recommend setting this up to this fastest one. This device is already stupidly fast, so anytime that you're waiting for animations, applications for the most part are already open. So this will be the better option and just allows you to go through animations much faster. You can also just turn off the animation so everything just literally snaps into view instantly, but then you don't have any kind of animation. So efficient probably is the go-to option. This is also what I'm kind of using on my device, as every phone has this option, though it's for the most part hidden. And with the 8 Elite processors, these phones can handle these kind of animations pretty efficiently, to the point that when the animation is finished anyway, super fast, the application is already open anyway, or loaded up more like. Which previously you would be still waiting for the application to load. Now, if we go to the next thing, which is the home screen animation for the entering animation, this is what will happen when you do this, though it's primarily referring to the home screen. It's just a little bit of a kind of like a custom thing that you can set up, and you can see you have different ways. So this just kind of like pops up. This one does this kind of load up from the top, fly in, and we also have this one. Wow, that is iPhone almost, like it gives me the iPhone, what is it, like the beginning of iPhone had this kind of loading animation. Anyway, so you can choose it, and just to kind of showcase this, I'm gonna do this right now. Probably not the best option. Let's try it here. There you go. So that's kind of how it looks like. Moving further down, we have a fingerprint animation, or fingerprint icon animation, which is when you have an added fingerprint, it's just kind of where it indicates where you're supposed to press your finger to scan it. Now, this is the default one. You can choose from, again, plethora of options right here. And you also have a colored one if you want. I'm gonna stick with this, looks pretty good. And another thing associated with fingerprint is the second option, so fingerprint recognition animation. This will show you when you successfully unlock your device. It gives you this kind of animation. Again, this is the default one. You have, again, several other options that you can choose from. Oh, this is just, this is more like a general scan. So you have the white one that was just going to show up on the always on display. And this one shows up when you press it, it gives you this animation. So you can again choose whichever one you want. There is a whole heap of actual animations right here to choose from, more than I have ever seen on any other device. And we also have a face recognition animation. This, for the most part, I haven't seen on any other device, and that would allow you to change the face recognition kind of icon, which is pretty interesting. That is straight Siri. Okay. Anyway, moving further down, we have another thing, which is charging animation. When you plug in your phone, you get this animation for, I think it's primarily just like when you're fast charging it, not just charging, but I could be wrong. And again, you have several options to choose from, which are pretty nice in general. And we also have the animation for when you plug in your phone. So this is like a quick animation. You plug it in, it starts charging, and you have this kind of animation at the bottom for a brief moment, and it disappears. And you can again choose from a couple of them. Personally, I like this one. And last thing is an option that I only seen, I think, on Nothing phones. I think it's Nothing phones, or OnePlus is one of those, which is the animation for when you lock the device or unlock it. By default, it's turned off, and if you tap on it, you can kind of see how it reacts. So this is kind of just fade in and out when the screen basically turns off. Then you have from the power button. I personally like this option the most. And from the top, bottom, and that's about it. So if we apply it now, you can see it just kind of fades into the power button, and when I press it again, it does the same thing outwards from the power button. So it gives you a nice little aesthetic. I personally really like this option, which again, I only seen this on one other phone, and it just adds a nice touch to it. Now, if we go back, we can also stop at the notification and status bar, and here we have status bar and notification method, and we have a couple options. We have the icons, numbers, or none. So this refers to these icons right here at the top. By default, it will show you only 3 icons, so you can change it to a number, which I only have 3 right now anyways, but if you have more, you get the 3 icons and then triple dots to indicate that you have more than the displayed amount of notifications. So having a number just gives you a straight amount of notifications you actually have without the dots, which I personally like more. Or you can just completely not have it visible at all if you don't want it. So I can show silent notification icons, whatever that is supposed to be, display real-time network speed. This actually might be enabled by default, so if it annoys you when you have like this little speed right here with some numbers changing, you can turn that off. It honestly serves no real purpose for the most part, especially if you live in a city. So yeah. And then we have the battery style and percentage. So right now I'll just have the vertical battery. You can change it to horizontal. You can also add a percentage inside or outside the battery, though inside the battery is only for the horizontal battery. The vertical, as you can see, just disappears with that option. So there we go. And another thing that I wanted to show is the RAM and storage section. Right here we have the RAM, and you can see we have RAM extension enabled. Now this device comes with a whopping 16 gigabytes of RAM, which is already double of what typically MacBooks come with. And it's extending it by another double that. So you're getting 32 gigabytes of RAM for literally no reason. There is no way in hell you're going to be using this much RAM ever. And the only thing that it will do is just allow you to have more apps loaded up into your RAM in the background. So if you have a bunch of apps open, you can quickly go to them and it will just load them up instantaneously from RAM. Although this might also increase the power consumption, so it's something that I don't necessarily like to use myself. But I actually haven't checked it out myself. But still, the 16 gigabytes is being taken from your storage, so if you're struggling with storage, you might want to turn that off. And we need to restart the device for that, because it's taking the storage, so don't do it. It basically needs to reboot the device. Anyway, one last thing that I want to showcase is the side panel right here, which has a couple functions. So if you swipe it out, you only have it visible inside of applications. So when you pull it out, you can then grab an application, drag it here, for instance, and drop it as a pop-up view. So now we can interact with said application, though I don't have internet, so I click on it. There we go. You can minimize it into this app head while going back to using your normal other application that is full screen. Do it this way as well. And you can also hide it like so, or if you have it open, let's just bring it up. We can maximize it into full screen view. And the other thing that you can do is use split screen. So if I click down here on this little drop down, you have split screen and a small window. So this was the small window, and the split screen allows you to have 2 different applications open at the same time. So let's pick, of course I picked the only application one of the applications that isn't supported in split screen. Let's try that again. So what would be, there we go. So from here, I believe we can still, what did I grab right here? Okay. So I can bring up this as well. You can see we can use 3 different applications at the same time. And it just allows you some multitasking. You have 16 gigabytes of RAM right here by default on this device right here. So you might as well use it for multitasking if you want to, and just know that this device shouldn't struggle with any of that whatsoever. But anyway, with that being said, hopefully you found this video helpful, and if you did, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and thanks for watching.